I still remember the sound, the slow drag of a wooden hanger against her closet rail. That's how it started. A sound too ordinary to matter, until she said my name like a question that carried more than curiosity. Noah, why was your jacket in my closet? The way she asked it made something in my chest tighten. Not accusing, just quiet. But behind the quiet, there was something else. A wait, a wondering. I looked up from the mug in my hand, steam rising like a weak excuse. My jacket. I tried to laugh it off. You sure it's mine? Elena tilted her head, the corner of her mouth lifting the way it does when she knows I'm dodging. It's the one you wore last time you were here. The brown one. Smells like rain. That part made me go still, because I hadn't been here since June. And the last time I left, it was too fast, too abrupt, before either of us could figure out what the silence between us had turned into. Now, it was late September. Her house smelled like cinnamon and dust, and the air carried that early autumn chill that makes everything feel fragile. She stood by the closet, jacket in hand, looking at it like it was a question she wasn't supposed to ask. I wanted to say something that made sense, that maybe I'd forgotten it months ago, but the truth was I remembered everything I left behind that day. And that jacket wasn't one of them. Elena stepped closer, slow, deliberate, as if the floorboards might give her away. You didn't leave it here, she said quietly. I found it this morning, folded, on the top shelf. My breath caught, not because of the jacket, but because she looked at me the way she did the night I left, like she was trying not to reach out. Maybe I came by, I murmured. You weren't home. Maybe you don't lie very well, she said softly, and her smile, faint, tired, knowing, broke something loose in me. There was a pause then, the kind that hums between two people who both know what they shouldn't think about. The clock ticked too loudly. Outside, a breeze moved through the maple tree, brushing against the window pane like fingers. She placed the jacket on the back of a chair, smoothed it down. You always forget things here, she said, her tone lighter now. A charger, your keys, a book. Maybe this time, it's something else. Her words lingered longer than they should have. I looked at her, her hair falling loose from the clip, her sleeves rolled to her elbows, the faint tremor in her hand when she reached for her cup. There was nothing deliberate about it, but everything in me wanted to close the space between us. I shouldn't have stayed away that long, I said. She didn't look up right away. When she did, her eyes were softer than I remembered, but guarded. People need distance, she said. It helps them think. Did it help you? She didn't answer. Just sipped her coffee, eyes drifting to the jacket again, like she was afraid to look at me too long. And in that silence, I realized something simple and dangerous. I'd never stopped thinking about her. Then came the sound, the sudden ding of her phone on the counter. She reached for it, frowned, thumb hovering over the screen. Her breath hitched just slightly. I asked, everything okay? She hesitated, eyes flicking to me before turning the phone face down. It's nothing, she said, but her voice was too soft to believe. And that's when I noticed beneath the jacket on the chair, another one of my things. A notebook I never left. This time, she didn't even try to explain. The air between us went still. Then, from the hallway, came a knock on the front door. Slow, measured, as if whoever was there already knew they were interrupting something they shouldn't. The knock at the door hung in the air like a dare neither of us wanted to answer. Elena glanced toward it, then back at me, a flicker of uncertainty before she turned away. Her hand trembled just slightly when she reached for the doorknob. It was only the mailman. A dull exchange, a small package, a polite thank you. But the silence that followed after she closed the door was louder than anything he could have said. She stood with her back to me for a moment, exhaling quietly. I thought you might have moved on, she said, still facing the door. You're 25, Noah. You should be out there, not here. I almost laughed, but it came out as something else. And you should stop assuming you know what I need. That made her turn. There was the look I remembered from months ago. Equal parts affection and fear. Elena had been married once, 20 years, give or take. I only knew pieces of the story. A man who stopped looking at her, a house that stayed too quiet, the way she learned to smile without really feeling it. She never talked about him unless I asked. And even then, it came out in fragments, like she was describing a stranger's life. When I'd first started helping her around the house, fixing shelves, repainting the porch, she treated me like the neighbor's polite nephew. That changed the night we stayed up too late, drinking wine, laughing about everything that wasn't supposed to matter. I brushed her hand when I passed her the glass. She didn't pull away, but the next morning, she couldn't meet my eyes. That was the last time I saw her before I left. Now, standing here again, I realized how much she tried to build her distance. New books stacked on the coffee table, a framed photo of her sister's kids, even the faint smell of someone else's cologne, probably from a dinner she hadn't wanted to go to. I looked down at the notebook on the chair, the one I never left. She must have found it too. I could see the corner of a page folded back, a faint pencil mark from my old sketches. "You read it?" I asked. Her voice faltered. "Just the first few pages. They weren't meant for anyone." "I know." She hesitated, then softer, "But I wanted to understand what you were running from." I swallowed hard. "And did you?" She smiled, small, broken, almost fond. "You weren't running from anything. You were running towards something you thought you shouldn't want." The truth of it sat between us like a confession neither of us had the courage to name. Outside, the late afternoon light shifted, filling the room with a muted gold that made her skin glow faintly. I could see the faint scar near her wrist, the one she got from cooking years ago, and for a moment I wanted to trace it with my finger just to see if she'd let me. Instead, I said quietly, "You kept the jacket." "I couldn't throw it away," she whispered. Our eyes met. Neither of us moved. And then, without meaning to, my hand brushed hers as we both reached for the mug on the counter. Neither of us pulled back. Not this time. Elena's fingers lingered against mine for barely a second, but that was long enough. Too long. The air between us shifted, suddenly too close, too fragile. She stepped back first, her breath catching like she'd been burned. "We shouldn't," she said quietly. I wanted to agree. Instead, I just said, "I know." But neither of us moved away. The mug sat between us, untouched. Steam rose in slow curls, fading before it reached the ceiling. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed, sharp, sudden. We both flinched. She crossed to the window, pulling the curtain aside with a nervous hand. A car I didn't recognize was parked in the driveway, silver, clean, deliberate. Her voice went low. "That's Mark's car." Mark, her ex-husband. My chest tightened. "He's here." He wasn't supposed to be. Before I could ask anything else, there was another knock. Harder this time. Elena turned to me, eyes wide, unsure. "Go to the kitchen," she whispered. "Please." I didn't argue. I slipped around the corner just as she opened the door. His voice carried, steady, calm, practiced. "I thought I left my watch here." "You didn't," she said too quickly. He stepped inside anyway, the weight of old ownership in his stride. "You sure? You've been busy, huh?" I stayed out of sight, leaning against the cold counter, my pulse thudding in my ears. I could see just enough, his hand brushing against hers when he reached for the table, her shoulders tightening. He noticed a mug on the counter. "You having coffee with someone?" "Elena froze." "No," she said, but the word came out too small. I held my breath. The kitchen felt suffocating, the air thick with the sound of their silence. After a moment, he laughed softly. "Relax, Lena. I'm just teasing." He stayed another few minutes, talking about his job, a dinner, some mutual friend she didn't seem to care about. And then, just before leaving, he said, "You should come by sometime. The house feels empty without you." She didn't answer. When the door finally shut, she leaned against it, eyes closed, her whole body trembling in quiet relief. I waited a beat, then stepped out. "You okay?" She opened her eyes slowly. "He still has a key." "I forgot." Her voice cracked on the last word. I wanted to reach out, but she moved first, pacing, rubbing her arm like she was trying to shake off the moment. "I can't do this again," she murmured. I can't have someone else decide what's wrong for me. Then don't let them. She looked up at me, that same fragile defiance flickering behind her eyes. You make it sound easy. It's not, I said, but I'm still here. Her gaze fell to my jacket draped over the chair. Still there, still impossible to explain. She touched the collar lightly, like it was proof of something she hadn't meant to keep. And then, too close, too unthinking, she looked up, and our faces were inches apart. Neither of us breathed. Her whisper came out rough. You should go, Noah. But her hand never left the jacket. That night, the rain came in slow sheets, steady, patient, the kind that sounds like it's trying to whisper something you don't want to hear. I was still in her kitchen, pretending to help clean up, though neither of us had eaten dinner. The lights were dim, yellow, the kind that softens everything but hides nothing. Elena hadn't said much since Mark left. She moved quietly, her mind somewhere else. I could tell she was replaying every second of that visit. His tone, his touch, my presence. Finally, she spoke. He still thinks he has some right to walk in here. He doesn't, I said. She gave a small, humorless laugh. You're too young to know what people think they own, Noah. I bit back the instinct to argue. Instead, I said, age doesn't mean you get to keep being afraid. She froze, dish towel hanging in her hand. Her eyes lifted to mine, sharp, startled. Afraid? Yes. I stepped closer. You build these walls. You say you want quiet, peace, control. But what you want isn't peace, is it? She looked away. You don't understand. I do. My voice was quieter now. You want to stop feeling like you're waiting for something that'll never happen. Her shoulders stiffened. You should leave. But I didn't. The storm outside deepened, a low growl of thunder rolling over the house. I took another step, and she turned to face me fully, wet eyes, trembling lips, trying to look composed. You think this is simple? You think you just show up with your sketches and your soft words, and suddenly everything I've kept buried makes sense again? I said nothing. She went on, voice breaking. You don't know what it's like to be looked at like you're past something, like your story already ended. I didn't mean to move closer, but I did. That's not how I see you. Her eyes flicked up, defiant, almost angry. Then stop looking at me like that. Ow! Like you want something you shouldn't. I hesitated, the air thick between us, the kind that feels charged enough to break skin. Maybe I do. The words hit her like a confession and a wound at once. She stepped back until her hip touched the counter. Her breathing grew shallow. You don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. The silence that followed was unbearable. Every sound, the rain, the thunder, the hum of the refrigerator, faded until it was just us. I could see her hand trembling where it rested on the counter. My own reached out, not quite touching hers, suspended in the small space between what we wanted and what we couldn't name. She whispered, if you stay here another minute, I won't stop it this time. My pulse roared in my ears. Then tell me to go. Elena looked up, eyes full of everything she'd never said and didn't. And just as I took that final half step toward her, the sound of her phone shattered the silence. A single name flashing on the screen. The sound of her phone cut through the air like a blade. Elena's hand hovered over the counter, trembling. The name on the screen glowed in the dim light. Mark again. I could see it in her eyes, that tiny flash of panic that wasn't about fear, but guilt. She didn't answer right away, just stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then she whispered, more to herself than me, he knows. My voice came out rough. Knows what? She didn't look at me. He must have seen your car. I parked down the street. Her lips pressed together. He knows, Noah. He always did. Before I could respond, the phone lit up again, this time with a message. She turned the screen toward me without meaning to. The text was short, but it landed like a punch. You never learn how to hide things. Her breath hitched. She set the phone down hard, like it burned her. Elena, I told you, she snapped, voice trembling. You shouldn't have come back. Her anger wasn't loud. It was brittle, the kind that comes from fear. I stepped forward. You think this is just about him? About a damn message? It's not just about him. She pressed a hand to her forehead, pacing. It's about me. About what I keep doing, pretending I'm not lonely, pretending I can handle being seen again. And then she stopped. Then you show up. Something inside me twisted, part anger, part ache. So, I'm the problem now? Her voice broke. No, you're the one thing I can't explain away. We stood there, thunder rolling outside, both of us breathing too fast. I wanted to reach for her, to make it make sense, but she turned abruptly and grabbed my jacket from the chair. You should go before he comes back. I didn't move. And if I don't? She held the jacket out, but her hand shook so badly it fell to the floor. She covered her face with both hands, her voice cracking. You don't understand what he's capable of. The words hit differently. Not fear, warning. Elena, did he hurt you? She didn't answer, just shook her head once, too quickly. It doesn't matter. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. It does. She looked up, eyes glistening. If he finds out I still talk to you, he'll use it. He always does. And that's when the twist hit like lightning. I finally understood. The jacket in her closet. Folded. Placed where she'd find it. He's been here, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Elena froze. What? That's how it got there. You put there. To make you think. Her face went pale. To make me think you came back. The realization sank between us like a ghost. Heavy, undeniable, cruel. Her knees nearly gave, and I caught her before she fell. Her fingers clung to my shirt, breath shallow. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. He's not done with me. Outside, headlights swept across the front window, stopping in the driveway. We both turned toward the sound of a car, door slamming shut. The headlights outside carved two pale lines through the rain, stopping right in front of the house. Elena's breath went shallow, her fingers gripping my arm. It's him. For a second, neither of us moved. The world shrank to the sound of the rain, the soft hum of her refrigerator, the pulse hammering in my ears. Then she stepped back, wiping her hands on her jeans, trying to compose herself. You need to leave through the back. No, I said. Not this time. Her voice trembled. Please, Noah. You don't know what he'll do. I took a breath, steadying my voice. Then maybe it's time he learns he can't still control you. Her eyes widened. Fear, disbelief, something else flickering beneath. The kind of emotion that doesn't belong to just fear anymore. Before she could respond, there was a knock, firm, deliberate. We both turned toward the sound. She looked at me, shaking her head slowly, silently begging me not to open it. But I did. Mark stood there, his face half lit by the porch light. Polite smile, soaked hair, the kind of calm that hides danger. Evening. His gaze shifted past me, to Elena. Didn't expect company. I didn't answer. He stepped inside anyway, brushing rain from his coat. You left in a hurry earlier, he said to her, tone smooth. Forgot my watch. Again. Elena folded her arms. It's not here. He chuckled, eyes darting to me. You sure about that? The silence that followed was so tight it felt breakable. He let his eyes move between us, slow, assessing. You always did like to rescue things, Lena. I felt her stiffen beside me. Mark's smile faded. Don't mistake loneliness for love, kid. Something in me snapped then, not out of pride, but out of clarity. She's not lonely, I said evenly. She's just finally done being afraid. His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he might hit me. But instead, he looked at her, really looked, and his expression shifted. So that's how it is. Elena's voice broke the silence, trembling but firm. Yes, that's how it is. He stared at her for a long moment, then exhaled sharply, not a laugh, not quite anger, and walked out, slamming the door behind him. The house went still again. Elena stood frozen, hands still hovering midair from where she'd pointed him to the door. Then her shoulders sagged. It's over, I said quietly. She shook her head. No, it's just changed. Her eyes glistened, tired but unguarded now. I stepped closer, unsure if I should touch her, unsure of what would break if I did. but she moved first. A small step. Her hand found mine. Neither of us spoke. The storm outside began to ease, leaving only the sound of dripping water from the eaves. Finally, she whispered, "You shouldn't have stayed. I couldn't leave you like that." She looked at me, a faint smile through the tears. "And now, I said, you don't have to be afraid anymore." She squeezed my hand, almost imperceptibly, a promise, a goodbye, a beginning. Then she let it go. And for once, neither of us tried to explain what that meant. The morning after the storm, the house was quiet in a way it hadn't been for months. No tension humming in the walls. No echoes of footsteps that didn't belong. Just the soft creak of floorboards, the faint smell of coffee, and the dull light spilling through half-open curtains. Elena sat at the kitchen table, hair still damp from her shower, wearing one of those faded sweaters she used to paint in. There was something lighter about her, not happy, exactly, but emptied. The kind of peace that comes after the final tear has already been shed. I stood by the counter, holding the same mug I'd used the night before. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It just was. She finally spoke. "He won't come back." I nodded. "I know." Her fingers traced the rim of her cup, slow, thoughtful. "He didn't take the watch," she said after a moment. "He just wanted to see if I'd still open the door." "And you did," I said softly. She looked up, a small, tired smile pulling at her lips. Maybe that was the last time I had to. We both let that hang there, a small truth wrapped in exhaustion. I glanced toward the chair where my jacket had been. It was gone now, folded neatly on the counter beside her. "You can keep it," I said. She shook her head. "No, you should take it this time." I walked over, picked it up, and hesitated. The fabric still smelled faintly like her house, like cinnamon, rain, and something familiar I couldn't name. She met my eyes then. "What happens now?" I took a breath. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it should be yours to choose." Her gaze softened, and for a moment, it felt like the world had shrunk to just that kitchen, her hand near mine, the steady rhythm of rain dripping from the roof outside. "I used to think love was supposed to last forever," she said quietly. "Now I think it's enough that it changes us, even if it doesn't stay." I swallowed hard. "You think this will fade?" Her eyes flicked to mine. "No," she whispered, "just that it might become something different, something we can live with." We stood there for a long time, not touching, not running, just there. And for once, that was enough. When I finally left, the air outside was crisp and clean, the ground soft beneath my boots. The storm had passed, but its scent lingered, a reminder that something had been washed away and something else quietly begun. As I walked down the path, I heard the faint click of her front door closing behind me. Not in anger, not in fear, just closure. I didn't look back, but I knew she was standing by the window, watching, just as she always had, not as a secret anymore, but as a memory that finally had somewhere to rest. And maybe, somewhere in that stillness, we both found what we'd been searching for. Thought Balloon, did you enjoy the story? Would you like to see more slow-burn forbidden love stories, or something softer, about healing and second chances?